here's where I'm at with it. So I'm listening to one of my favorite podcasts, The Diary of a CEO, and a bunch of reels came up this morning about a guy explaining the dating scene for men and why men in this generation are failing and what that has to do with women. And then a woman explaining why it's men's fault, it seems like, or something. In the rule book, as I've got a rule book about how to be a man, and one of those rules high up there in the tree, like number 7 or number 4, it just sounds like this: women give terrible advice. And it's not an absolute, it's just a generality. And this is true, as terrible as it sounds. I'm not misogynist, I'm not chauvinist, I'm none of that. I love women very much. I think they're the higher sex. I think they are the greater, closer to God, lesser of the two evils, for sure. But they give terrible advice because they can't comprehend the other side of the coin. That is why. So this guy is explaining the dynamic of how women date, especially in online metrics, and how if a woman dates a millionaire, she now takes anybody that doesn't have at least 90% of what that guy gave her and disqualifies them from her future candidates. And thus she can only look for him or higher in her next mate. And it's not even if she dates him, if she sleeps with him, period. If he has sex with her, she thinks that's her weight class for men. That's what he said. And I said, yeah, that's very true. That's well said. And then this chick goes on to respond with some nonsense or whatever about, it was so off-putting, I don't even remember what it said. But basically, here's the problem. Men are the problem because men set the stage for the problem. Although it was women's preference that we set the stage for, we still set the stage. And so, for that reason, it is a woman's world, but it's a man's problem. We have to fix it. I'm having this conversation, and it's like, how do you undo or reset things? The only way to reset society is to have the men change it. Because women don't change things. They tell a guy that they want it changed. And that may sound, again, sexist or chauvinistic, but no. Part of leading is serving. And I believe men lead and women get served. Okay? That's not so crazy, but I know it sounds crazy when you hear it coming out. It just is what it is. I will never, outside of a boss, follow a woman's direction. Not because I think they're wrong. It's just that I'm a leader, so I don't need to follow direction. I will take advice from a woman all day about her ideals, of her angles, of user points, and I'll roll it into my assessment of what I will do next. But I will not just blanketly be told or driven or made to do something by a man or a woman, but especially by a woman whose emotions go through so many changes in a day, a week, and a month, as it is. And however you think that's a superpower, whatever you think about that, I'm not here to argue that. But the fact is women are crazy. And that's okay. But crazy and leadership don't necessarily work out well. You can look at history and you can see how that works when a king is crazy or a lunatic or a mad king. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the way you want to be. Making emotional decisions at the top gets people killed at the bottom, So, no matter how far or short my reach is, my control in this life, in this kingdom that I have, what 2 cents I can rub together, I will be making those decisions for those 2 cents. And that is me being a leader and owning what's mine. I'm not going to ask somebody else to, because I'm responsible for it. I'm responsible for what happens to my 2 cents. So I'm not going to give the power away for somebody else to tell me, hey, throw your 2 cents over there, and then I'm standing there wondering why I don't have 2 cents. You know what I mean? It's me. It's my small world. And for me, I will control and lead my small world. And that is not for everybody. And that's okay too. Men have to understand that. We are not for everybody. One of the big things that keeps coming into mind is one of my other rules. Part of being a man is you have to be able to disappoint women tactfully, respectfully, but you have to be able to let them down from time to time. If you can't disappoint a woman, you're not a man. You're a sissy. And again, no chauvinistic, no misogynistic ideals. We have to be imperfect, and we have to let women know that. If you are a yes man, you're no good for anybody anyway. And every woman knows that. Every woman knows she loses respect for a man if she can tell him to jump and he says, yes ma'am, how high? Every woman knows that. And that may be your dynamic in your relationship. And that's for y'all. But for me, as a leader of a relationship, you don't tell me what to do. I tell you what to do. And I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you, live your best form of yourself and let me see how I can work with that. That's what I tell women. You're not here to just appease me. You have to enjoy life. That's part of your thing. I don't have to enjoy life. I have to feel right about life. And so my enjoyment takes a back seat. Again, so I tell people, I'm not your father. I don't own you. You can do whatever you want. We'll just see where the chips fall and move forward accordingly. Okay, so if you think you want to do that and you aren't clear yet on who I am, that's because I'm a bad leader. But if I've explained where I stand with something, you are allowed to still choose it, even if I don't agree with it. You know, do your thing. What you can't do is you can't, as a man, you can't blame a woman for doing something she doesn't know. You know, you can't hold her accountable for things that she isn't aware are wrong. You have to have these conversations. So I try to have a lot of good talks, set up the ideas of like, where are my limits? What is it that I don't deal with? And anything else, we'll figure it out on the fly, which leaves a lot of gray area, a lot of room for play, but women need to be able to play. They need to have some flack and some slack in life. I'm not running a military here. I'm trying to be a leader in a relationship. It's different. But back to my point. So, basically, most women want the same 10% of guys, right? This is something that Red Pill Content told us, I would assume 12 years ago. Probably 12 years ago. This was analyzed and put out into documentation that most women want 10% of guys. And then in this podcast, the lady, as the man's explaining that, nobody disagrees, but the lady calls out the Red Pill Content as to say, that's the issue. The truth is the issue. And that right there is what turned me off to her. Like, as soon as she said that, it's like, you understand, just because it hurts doesn't make it bad. You know, in fact, like the weight room or any other process of strengthening yourself, it's going to cost you a little bit to get there. So, yeah, so she just pretty much gleaned it to say the problem is the Red Pill Content, which means she doesn't understand the Red Pill Content. Another form of being a man, another big rule to being a man is you cannot agree with another man 100%. That's weird. So, as a man, when I hear Red Pill Content, I will not accept 100% of it. It's got to be flawed in some way. So either I look for the flaws or they jump out at me. And there are plenty of flaws in any truth and any doctrine that you see on this world. So I'm not here to say Red Pill is perfect and it solves all questions. All I'm saying is you can learn a lot about women from Red Pill Content unless you let women tell it. And then they'll say, no, don't listen to that. And the reason why a woman would say that is because it takes away or it shines a light on the tools that I would say over 80% of women use in the game. And once a man can see the tools that a woman uses, he can now set up a defense for them. And women don't want men to be defensive or have a defense against their offensive, because this benefits them for sources of extraction, right? So this way a woman can come to a date and say, here's what I want. This is what I expect in the date, and don't expect to get anything from me. And a sucker will be like, okay, yes ma'am, let's do this date. I value your time that much. Whereas a real man would say, cool, so you're not going to do anything and I'm going to do everything. So you don't have much of a servant's heart. I can tell. I can glean that off of where you're at with it. So why would I even go on a date with you? Because it's not going to lead anywhere where I want to be. You see what I'm saying? A woman that starts like that lets you know where she's at. You need to take those notes and understand where you want to be with it, and then make a decision. You don't have to date every woman you see. You don't have to give every woman you see opportunity with you. And you definitely don't have to spill resources on every woman that you come in contact with. So, with that being said, as men in this world who want to connect with women, we have to adapt, because it's never going back. Unless we have like a nuclear blowout and everything resets and the whole internet doesn't work anymore, it's never going back to the 40s and the 50s when men could just be men. That's not good enough for women these days. Okay? So, even now, just yesterday I saw a debate, or not a debate, a podcast about James Sexton, one of the coolest lawyers and media content makers in the recent 5 years. He's a divorce lawyer. He says they send over these prenup demands, the woman does, and they're like, I want to have a push, what's it called, a push gift, which you get a gift when you have a baby, every time you push a baby out, a push present. I want this many vacations a year, I want this type of lifestyle. Like, so in her prenup, she's listing out all of these basically assets and financial gains she expects to make from the marriage, or else she's entitled to divorce him. And it's a ridiculous list of gimme. And I love it. I'm absolutely for that. I want a woman to tell me what she's here for right up front, so then I can figure out what the price is. And fortunately, she played all of her cards right there up front with her lawyer, and then the guy's lawyer was like, here's what she wants, and by the third thing down the list of probably 20 things, he was like, no, it's cool, I just won't marry her. She's not the woman I'm looking for. Great. So we all have clarity, you know, and she can continue down until she finds a man who's willing to fold to her demands in order to have her in his life. But that's going to be, without a doubt, 100% a headache when that man finds her, because women do not carry accountability for where they are or who they are. In fact, they are championed for not growing and not being mature and not having accountability. So if it comes down to that, when somebody has that conversation, she'll just say, oh, he wasn't the man for me. He wasn't big enough for me. He couldn't handle what I needed. Which, in fact, he was a multimillionaire at a young age, so he could handle those demands. And honestly, those ideals and those opportunities were there far before she spoke. It's just as you start to talk and let people know what you're about, real logical men can make a grasp on the situation. We understand what's going on and we can change direction. Okay, so I guess what I'm saying is to you fellas, get your weight up, get a little practice in, make a few mistakes, but don't make life-changing mistakes. Don't commit to life-changing mistakes without at least seeing or learning from somebody else what that's like. And women, go after what you got to go after. If your highest aspiration is financial frivolousness and, you know, material gaudiness, then go after that, because we aren't mad about it. We just may not be willing to pay for it. You know, do your thing. Absolutely, love. Nobody's going to fault you for it, least of all me. Of course, you have to understand if you find the man that's going to just upfront pay for your lifestyle, he's looking at you like a whore or a prostitute. He's not looking at you like a life partner. And that's something you're gonna have to, I mean, like I said, you rather cry in a Bentley than a Camry. So whatever. But yeah, so yeah, this new, I'm hoping it's a new episode of the Diary of a CEO coming out with these two guys debating, well, a guy and a girl debating about the dating scene. But I look at this girl, her last name is Yuri. I can't remember her first name, but her content about what the titles of her podcasts have been, and it's just like, yeah, you know, I try not to just cringe when I read something, but I'm already leaning in a certain way. So if I'm going to listen to them, I have to really check my bias and kind of allow her to speak before I judge what she's saying. But I'm already at an idea of like, yeah, it's probably going to be terrible advice, because she says she coaches men and women, and the problem she sees with the men that she coaches, these upper CEOs or these high earning, you know, high value men, is that they have a hard time deciding which woman they want. And women who are looking for these men have a hard time finding men, good men. And it's like, if you can't find a good man in this day and age, it's because you're looking in the wrong place. She's coaching people on how to find love, and there are a ton of good men out here. They just aren't Instagram worthy. That's all that is. If you could take your life off of social media, you would see regular people do regular good life just fine. You know? But for these, what I would assume, million and billionaires who don't know how to choose, they don't have to choose. Women have to choose. Men take what they can get. So if it's 3 women or 5 women or whatever his budget can handle, that's what it is. He doesn't have to choose. And she's prescribing the same thing for both of them, that you go about loving this way. It doesn't work that way. Men and women are completely backwards in how they see that. So I'm going to listen to her podcast today just to hear what she's saying. But I'm pretty sure the problem with her doctrine or her prescription is she thinks the same pill cures men's issues and women's issues, like most women, but it doesn't. It's probably the antidote. It's the exact opposite of that pill that would cure men's issues. So that's where I'm at with it. Long talk, 18 minutes, but I just it really struck me this morning. I woke up and the feeds were bumping with this chick and this guy talking about this stuff, and it's like, man, I love the topic, but you know, you can't do it just one way for everybody. It's got to be specialized. So I'm out. We'll talk to you soon. Love you.